Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I've been a Java developer, not so much anymore, but for many, many years, and this is my first time at DevOps. Thrilled and very honored to be speaking at this venue. It's an awesome venue. And in addition, very, very happy to be sponsoring DevOps all across. Earlier, I told Stefan, I said all across the globe, and he was like, well, not quite, it's just Europe. But I said not yet across the globe, so we're extremely happy to be doing that. I had a clicker somewhere.
There.
Okay, so with that, let me get started. So Java's success depends on three main factors. The first of which is innovation. We've been doing this for many years. We add new value and reduce costs for developers, customers across the board. The second big factor, of course, is an open, thriving, vibrant community and ecosystem. And to help glue the two and steward it along, Oracle as providing the leadership for Java. And throughout this conference, you're going to see the various aspects of these three pillars in the talks that several of the team members are giving. But this particular presentation today, the keynote, is going to be extremely demo-heavy, as you can see from all the laptops and gadgets here. So there will be very little of me speaking, but a lot of demos. So with that, I would like to invite to the stage Richard Baer and Jasper Potts. I'm sure all of you are familiar with them, architects from the client team.
Thank you, Nadia.
So we released JavaFX a year ago, approximately a year ago. So what have we been doing, Rich, since then?
Mostly vacation. I don't know, what's on our next slide? We've got a tag cloud that shows a bunch of the things that we've been working on in the last year. Actually, there's been a lot of work done by the team, and we've seen a lot of adoption throughout the industry in the heavy engineering desktop space, particularly folks who've been using Swing, SWT, and so forth, have really been taking to JavaFX a lot in the last year. We've added a bunch of new functionality, some like Canvas up there, which is essentially like the HTML canvas, as JavaFX is scene graph based. Being able to do some direct drawing is important for some use cases. H.264, so that you've got the real high def media. We have, of course, the ability to integrate HTML content into JavaFX, and you can now communicate from JavaScript to Java. So when you have those legacy libraries that are Java that you need to be able to get at, go talk to your server or whatever it is that you might be doing, we have support for those sort of things. So there's been a lot of work. Next session in this room after the keynote, Jasper and I have a session on what's new in JavaFX. We'll go through a lot more of this stuff. And also some of the stuff that we're working on. So this is all just what we've done in the last year. There's also, of course, Mac support, Linux support. Those things have both shipped. And but going forward in the next year, we've been doing a lot of work on embedded. Mm-hmm. So there's, we see the Arduinos, all of our little NFCs and those sort of things, cars, airplanes. There's a lot of different use cases now that are going crazy because of embedded.
Robots.
The robots, all these embedded little devices running the ARM chips and so forth. And many of them, people, you're building a product and you've got complete control of the ecosystem. Those are the sort of places that we're looking at being able to take JavaFX.
Mm-hmm. So you have some examples, I know, that you want to show us.
Yeah, so
Jasper.
Yes. Go ahead and do this. So we worked on building these kiosks for Java 1 this last year, and we've got a couple of them spread around. And Jasper, why don't you tell us a little bit about how it's put together?
So, as engineers, we would like to have our sort of garage projects of what we build at home. And this year, I've been building kiosks, which has been kind of a fun experience, and managed to get to play with laser cutters and all kinds of cool stuff. And so this is a Panda board, an ARM v7 dual core board. We've got running Java and JavaFX.
It's basically the same sort of hardware you'd find in a tablet.
Yeah, it's the same as a tablet or a phone, but unfortunately not quite as powerful as the modern stuff. It's sort of like almost an iPad 1. So really not a powerful device, and compared to modern desktops, really not powerful. But it's still a lot you can do with them. So it's running Ubuntu and Java and JavaFX on top. So we have a 22-inch touchscreen built in, and So this is set up. There's 2 more of these set up outside. You might have seen outside the rooms already, with all the information, the schedule information for DevOps. So you can go in and see what's on, pick a session. If you log in, you can log in with your DevOps. I think it's the ID they give you. So it's your username for DevOps, and then there's a separate number ID, and then it'll give you your same schedule as you get on the HTML5 website and stuff, and you'll be able to add rooms to your add sessions to your favorite sessions and so forth. You can get all the tweets, what's going on in DevOps. You can see all the speakers. You can see the details, see what sessions the speakers have got going on. You can see the venues, all the rooms. You can go in and see what's going on in those rooms and each of the sessions for those and so forth.
So the actual device is just the little guy in here, a touch screen, and then you just built the enclosure.
Just had some fun with some wood and metal and building a box around it to sort of show how these can be put together. But really the idea was to show that, you see these sort of kiosks all over the place in shopping malls and, train stations and so forth. And generally they're running, some Windows PC stuck away in a big box at the bottom. You really don't need anything that big or that expensive these days. So, anywhere you want to have information screens, or interactive kiosks, these little devices, and we'll show some more in a bit on Raspberry Pis as well. So really cheap devices can power great UIs these days.
And so what we have is it's just normal JavaFX, the same as what you'd have on desktop. In fact, this application runs exactly the same on desktop as it does on here. It's running Java SE embedded, which is a full version of Java. It's not this CLDC sort of Java ME stuff. This is full version of Java that's running on these devices. With hotspot and the whole 9 yards, running on ARM, and it's presently, we did just at Java 1, there's a developer preview for these boards, but it's still very early days for us. We're pretty pleased with the performance we're able to get on it just in a couple weeks time.
We've been doing a little bit of optimization on this. We're just sort of learning some of the fun of these devices of what's fast, what's slow. But so far we've really been mind blown what you can pull off on a low power device.
And you'll find when you go play with it, the touch events are not quite right.
That was the one thing we haven't worked out quite yet. Is that there seems to be a lot of intelligence in taking the raw touch information from the touch screen and turning that into the gestures and stuff. So we still have a learning curve.
We had to write our own kernel driver to get it to work on the version of the OS that was running on this particular board and everything else. So
it's been a big experience.
That part's not quite right.
There's also a picture up here. This was kind of a fun photograph. This is my living room floor with all the parts assembled that I'd ordered and built. And about the time to sit there and assemble it. So this was my sort of fun project with the 270 parts that go into making one.
I can't believe that you only half painted the back piece there. Steve Jobs would be just devastated.
Yeah, exactly. Inside perfection, just not quite,
Yeah, with Jasper, it's like a full service. When you tell him you need a demo, he's going to go all out and stencil it and do the welding and whatever it takes. Also, the Raspberry Pi, as Stefan was saying, they're outside, the ones you see. Last year, I hear you had Mac Minis, and this year we have a $35 Raspberry Pi, which runs JavaFX with the user interface, and it has a GPU on it, so I would encourage. We haven't released the GA version yet, but the early access ones are already available on java.net. So
we have it out for BeagleBoard so far, and we're working on hard on getting a release out for Pi for people for FX.
Yep. So if you have any other questions, of course, both Jasper and Rich will be here.
Yeah, and there's a whole slew of other talks going on.
Yeah, there's a lab, I think, tomorrow afternoon showing the Raspberry Pis and FX, so you can go and have a play with that and actually get your hands on one and have a go.
Great. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'd like to invite Joe Darcy from the JDK team to tell us about Java 8.
Thank you, Nandini. Just to overview where we are in the JDK release cycle, JDK 7 shipped in July 2011. How many people are already using JDK 7? Well, that's a good amount. JDK 8 is scheduled to ship next year in September. And going forward from JDK 8, we do expect to continue a 2-year release cadence between platform releases going forward. JDK 8 being developed in the JCP and in OpenJDK, so you can get all the sources along the way. The number of major features in JDK 8 include Lambda expressions and default methods, and we'll be hearing a lot more about those later in this conference. We also have some annotations-related changes. And at long last, we hope to have the date and time API in JDK 8. We also are working on compact profiles. Both EE and ME versions of Java already have profile support. We're adding profiles to SE, so there will be defined subsets of the SE API for use, for example, in embedded devices when you need a smaller footprint. Later this afternoon, there'll be a trio of talks about Lambda, one by myself, one by Maurice Naftalin. Maurice and I did meet yesterday and compare slide decks. There are differences between our talks. There is some overlap as well. I'll be talking about the language design context behind Lambda, talking a bit about the collection support, as well as some of the low-level implementation details. Maurice, in his talk, will have a gentle introduction to the collection support and go into that in more detail, in case you need to know about which of those talks you'd like to go to, or all of them. I haven't seen Jose's slides, but I understand he's going to focus more on the parallel aspects of Lambdas and a general parallelism support. If you're not too worn out after the Knox event on Thursday, on Friday morning, my colleague Joel Frank will be talking about the annotations features coming up in JDK 8 as well. So the road to having closures in Java has been a long and winding road, and DevOps has been a key location in that journey. Back in 2006 through 2008, there were a number of competing proposals about Lambda, and we heard many passionate presentations about those proposals here at DevOps. The DevOps whiteboards also served as a very useful way of gathering feedback and opinions about language changes at the time. After hearing that feedback, the JDK group announced at DevOps in 2009 that we agreed it was time to add closures to Java, and we've been working on that since then. The current status is that we have a draft specification available. There's a prototype in both source and binary form from OpenJDK, and those changes are coming soon to the JDK 8 mainline repositories as well. So they're almost ready to go back in to the mainline. Now, there's a lot going on in Project Lambda besides just arguing about syntax, although that happens as well. This is a very coordinated set of language changes. Besides the language changes themselves for Lambda expressions and for default methods which allow interface evolution, there's also library changes to support bulk data operations on collections and internal iteration, which will allow better use of parallelism going forward. Unlike previous language changes, including the generics, we're making fundamental changes to the VM to support these language changes. For example, the default method handling is implemented in the VM as opposed to desugaring in JavaC. So let's look at what closures in Java will look like. If you have some code, say from a scheduling application shown on the Kiosk before, you might want to do something like set an event handler. And to do that today, you'd have to write this rather verbose code to set the failure handler, and then you'd use an anonymous inner class and several lines of code. And really all you want to do is call one method, as shown here. Now, once Lambda expressions are in Java, you'll be able to write the code like this instead. So this is a Lambda expression. You may be familiar with them from other language. And a Lambda expression is an anonymous function, meaning that conceptually it's a freestanding function not associated with a class, not even an anonymous one. This has a number of advantages. It's much shorter and more concise, and it also has a lot less ceremony. It's more clear the essence of what's going on, which is really just calling one method. Lambda support in Java is relying on type inference in the compiler. So you'll notice in the code on the bottom, you don't have to have the types written explicitly. They're still there. This is still static typing. It's just that JavaC is inferring the types for you. There's also new coding idioms Lambda will encourage. For example, this is the standard iteration idiom in Java, the classic for loop. So we have a for loop over a collection of shapes. So this is called external iteration. The semantics of the for loop are well defined in the JLS, and sometimes they're too well defined. Sometimes we might not want to have to take things in a sequential order. So instead, with lambdas and the library changes we're doing, we'll be able to write the code like this. The shapes collection will have a for each method, and then we can pass in a lambda that encodes the operation we want to perform on each element. So in this internal iteration idiom, you pass the code you want to the collection, and it takes care of the iteration for you. While that seems initially like a small change, just swapping the order of the collection and how you start the iteration and the thing being iterated on, there's actually a fundamental change which allows a lot more flexibility in the API design. This is what a default method looks like. Now, with default methods, you can have code in interfaces. Not fields, just code. So you declare the method to be a default. You have the code body as you usually do. And then this method would get inherited by sub-interfaces and by classes implementing the interface. And this is a virtual method just like normal virtual methods. That means you can override it. So in your sub-interface or in your implementing class, if you want a better implementation of for each, perhaps one that takes advantage of parallelism, you can write that now. So for more information about Project Lambda, besides the talks today, you can also look at the Project Lambda website. You can download the binary builds and try them out today. Actually, trying out features under development, such as Lambda, well before they ship, is actually one of the most valuable things people in the Java community can do to help us get the best version of the language change possible. Now, of course, you don't have to try this out by yourself. You can also perhaps work with your local JUG. The London Java community recently hosted a Lambda Hackathon Day. Brian Getz was there, and he had a quote about that with a few hours of hacking, we very quickly got great feedback on the usability of the Lambda APIs. Both general validation, I tried this and it worked, as well as specific things like, I can't understand what this method does. And we were able to take this feedback directly from the community and incorporate that into our development processes going forward, well before we ship. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Lambda expressions come to Java at long last. And with that, I'll turn the presentation back to Nandini.
Thank you, Joe. I'm having some mic malfunction, sorry. All right, so next I want to invite Stephen Chin, who is the Java Technology Ambassador and more recently the Java 1 Content Chair as well, to the stage. I thought I saw Stephen a minute ago. Well, he seems to have disappeared. I apologize, a little hitch in our program, but let's resume. I'm going to continue on with Java EE. So Java EE 7 will primarily focus on multiple things. One is simplicity. This was things that we started in Java EE 5 to make it easier and more intuitive to work with Java EE, and that we're going to continue on in EE 7. Another, we have new capabilities such as caching and batch APIs. Another big push is HTML5 support with WebSockets. In fact, you can see from the code snippet there, it shows you how to expose a POJO as a WebSocket endpoint. And there's more of this, and I believe there are some talks during DevOps as well where you can learn more information. Moving on from Java EE 7 to 8, a big part of what we're going to be doing in 8 is following the trends in the enterprise market with things like NoSQL and I guess all the buzzwords that we can talk about, TSA, et cetera, and we're going to be tracking that both in 8 and beyond. We will be adding those features. Another big one is Jigsaw, adding support for modularity with Jigsaw, which will come in Java SE 9. From that, one of the other big things that we at Oracle are doing now is, you know, if you look at the late 1990s, there was the whole explosion of PCs and the web, the Internet of computers, if you will. And then in the 2000s, it was the Internet of people with tablets and smartphones and connecting people with the web and with each other, et cetera. And the next wave now is a proliferation of billions of devices, which we're calling the Internet of Things and M2M and so on, which has a profound impact on the way we live our lives. Like earlier, I would just go to work out, but now I wear my Nike Fuel Band. I track every day to see whether I'm in the red zone or green zone, and these are just little things, but they're all around us. And so we believe Java is a very perfect technology for this embedded space. So let's take a look. What do all of these devices, several of which already run Java, have in common with that, the server side? It turns out there's a lot more commonality than we realize. If you look at what used to be like a couple of decades ago in the enterprise space, they had to deal with various flavors and incompatibilities in hardware, operating systems, lack of skilled developers who consistently had some programming expertise. And many of these traditional problems have been solved by Java. I'm not saying it's perfect, but certainly in the enterprise space, Java has made a huge impact. And we believe, given that this similar set of problems exist in embedded today, that Java is the perfect technology for the embedded space. To this end, we have released a couple of new products very recently, announced at Java 1. And in the Internet of Things space, there are broadly three categories of devices. One, the edge devices that sit on the periphery. They're really low, like thermostats, sensors, things like that. And they either talk directly to the back end over an operator network or via a gateway. And the gateway itself is the second device, and as the name implies, is the gateway to the back end. And then, of course, there is the back end itself with the cloud and everything where Java exists today. So the two products we've released, the first one for the edge device is based on Java ME and CLDC. It's for the microcontroller class of devices, Java Embedded 3.2, along with associated tooling. The second one is for gateway devices, and it's the Java Embedded Suite, which is an integrated stack which built with Java SE7, Java DB, and versions of Glassfish and Jersey for web services. Both of these are available today for download. In fact, on OTN, you can download the Java Embedded Suite as well. We have a roadmap in which we will be evolving the device APIs across the board for these to fulfill the embedded story. On the SE7 side, we've also released additional ports, both on Mac OS X, and we have JavaFX running on it as well. We're working jointly with Apple in OpenJDK on Java 7 for Mac OS X. And we also have a port of Linux ARM. And you'll be glad to hear that since I think 2007 was when we had a new release of SE on a platform, which was, I believe, 64-bit Windows. This is the first time we've added additional ports since then. And like I said, in the embedded space, we'll have additional things as well. So anyway, moving on from, or maybe not moving on, we find, I guess Stephen Chin finally decided to make an appearance. Welcome, Stephen.
Hey, no, sorry I'm a little bit late, Nindi.
Yeah, I
Thanks-
guess you
thanks
had
for
trouble
covering.
with you.
Yeah, no, the rings around Antwerp are horrible. I kept getting off the wrong exit and going back in. And
I'm just glad you're here.
but I'm glad I didn't. Who left the toys on the stage here? My God.
Who left
I
the
almost
toys
ran
out?
these guys over. What happens? Stefan, are these yours? No. So actually, I've been on a pan-European tour. Oh, he's not too happy. He'll be okay. I started in London with the LJC. Thank you. London, UK. Okay, small but vocal minority. Traveled through Nijkerk for the JFall conference, which was an awesome conference. Thanks, Bert, for having me there. Went through Germany, Switzerland, Italy, France. All right, there we go. All the red shirts. And finally, back through Belgium. So it was an awesome trip. And there's more to come. So actually, I'd like to, if you guys are okay, I'd like to do a night hacking session right here on the keynote. But I need a volunteer. Who? Oh, wait, what are you doing here, Jasper? Thank you. So Jasper Potts, architect, Java user experience.
Developer experience architect.
Developer experience architect. Thank you. And I know we have some other night hackers in the audience too. Any night hackers here? Stand up. All right. So give these guys a big round of applause for. You can catch my stream with Trisha. Peter's upcoming. Mateus is upcoming on nighthacking.com. But let's sit down and do some hacking, Jasper. What do you got to show us?
A very sleepy computer. Which one? Do which one it is?
This one too. This one too. Is it live? Is it that one? Is it lift? Is it that one, Jasper?
Yeah.
It's this one here.
This one.
Okay, then.
Excellent. All right,
little
have a seat.
technical.
Have a seat. This is the casual part, Jasper. We're
Yeah,
we're just doing an
taking the
informal
jacket off
chat
and
with you, me, and a couple of our friends. So that looks kind of like the signage that's running outside.
So yes, I don't know if you've sort of seen as you came into the rooms, outside each of the rooms we've got the big plasma screen TVs telling you what's on that room and what's coming up next. Stephen volunteered to make this in JavaFX a couple of weeks ago and then nicely volunteered me. I don't quite know how he convinced me, but he said, oh, this will be fun, it's a Raspberry Pi. So, I hadn't had a chance to play with the Raspberry Pis yet, so I got convinced and so I spent a couple of days playing around with the Raspberry Pis and seeing what we can do. And, I'm totally in love with them. I'm so impressed with what you can pull off on a Raspberry Pi.
So you mean like pleasantly surprised that stuff actually worked?
Well, that too. Yeah.
All right, so let's see some of the code for this because everybody's seeing the finished product,
Yeah.
but we're hackers. We all believe you worked on this for 3 months with a demo team of 10 people. So this.
Nah. So one of the big things of using these devices is keeping as much as textures and images as possible. Because it's running a full 1080p screen, that's a lot of pixels for a tiny little device to push. So we need to make it the effort that it's doing as easy as possible. So we took the DevOps theme and we made up a bunch of images for the various logos and the little spaceships and so forth. And then, the next thing we need some data to show. So I have two very simple classes. I have a speaker class that represents a speaker, presentation class.
So is that your whole project there?
Yep, that's the entire project. So, I have 2 fonts, a few images, and 5 classes.
So you really didn't do much work, did you?
Well, I had to tell you that it was a lot of work, I had to make you feel guilty for dumping this on me,
I feel bad. So while I was cruising around Europe on a motorcycle, I left poor Jasper to finish up the prototype.
So, so the next thing I had was a data fetcher class, and I just basically go in, connect into the DevOps web services, and pull in their JSON feeds, create a bunch of the presentation and speaker objects, and then we have all our data display. So the last bit then is just the JavaFX code to display it. So there really isn't a lot here. I have the whole thing is 500 and a bit lines of code. So once you have your data, we've got 500 lines of code to draw all the spaceships. Just basically lay out the content block for each of the little ships' background, and then we just have one big timeline with our various keyframes for all of our animations. So we have a 2-minute loop where they fly along, and then at the end of the 2 minutes, they all reset back and see if there's a new session that's coming up, update their data.
I think most of the time was us arguing about exactly how the animations should work.
Yeah, he was really pedantic about getting the physics right, and he made me do things like turn the engines on and off, so when this guy gets to the end, his engines aren't on the.
It has to be physically capable, so
yeah.
yes.
And they shouldn't be moving too fast relative to the background and all this fun. So I think we've got it, somewhat physically, correct for space, but as I haven't been there, I can't really define it.
Cool. So what other sort of JavaFX stuff you've been working on?
So
maybe some 3D?
Yeah. So which is let me restart it. We got very messed up there. So running up to Java 1, we were working on a partnership with a company called Navis, who do container port management. And they say is, if you see a container on a ship, that it's either come from a port running their software or going to a port running their software. So they're pretty key in this sort of industry. And so they have software that manages getting containers on and off the ships. And another company called Canoe, who are a consulting company doing JavaFX stuff and other Java stuff. So they were helping with all the data side and the servers. So Navis and Canoe were working together, and we were sort of guiding them along and helping inspire them to show how we can solve their problems in FX. So this is the app that we came up with together. So they did this sort of 2D view. So one of the cool things about this is actually the docks in Antwerp. So this is a real dock.
So actually the dock's right here.
Yep, this is the docks just down the road.
You knew we were going to be on stage at DevOps, and you picked this out just to...
It was just random. It was like, they said, oh, here's the doc, here's our sample data set, and I think I've been there before. And so it all looked familiar, so it was pretty cool. So we have this sort of complete application that they've written. We can go in and show all the individual stacks. So there's a huge, big, complex data set here. And one of the difficult things is it's all a three-dimensional data set. Each of these stacks can be potentially 4 containers high. So the operators of this software had to do this amazing juggling in their head to use these different views to juggle this 3D space. So wouldn't it be cool if we could visualize this in 3D? So what we did in JavaFX was take exactly the same data set, the same data model, and do a 3D representation. So we can just switch over, and now we can fly. Now we can just fly around. And so here's the whole of the Antwerp scene, and here's our dock.
And that's all rendered live using JavaFX.
So this is all rendering live in JavaFX, and we even have the sort of classic game controllers.
Are you sure you didn't want to be a game developer?
Well, we could have had a few zombies running around here. Would have been fun. But but for us, we have another idea. So we can actually have, so we can get our little trucks.
Oh yeah, there's a little guy.
So we have our little trucks driving around and all of our cranes. So we can actually do real-time simulations of his little crane driving around of the dockyard. So they can run simulations and saying, before the dockyard even exists, what would it look like? How would the workload? How would the cranes? Are they going to crash into each other?
One of those cranes, he just drove through some containers. He's doing it again right there.
So we can also pick the containers.
Nice.
So it's a fully interactive. We can recolor. We can recolor the containers based on what port they're going to go into, what weight they are. One of the cool is just transferring over the container onto the little truck.
He's going the truck.
Off he drives with
Nice.
the container.
Awesome.
But so it's just a lot of fun to play with. And we're working on 3D for JavaFX. It should be out in JavaFX 8, available next year, and hopefully should be in the early access builds in the next couple of months.
Cool.
So you can go and play with it yourself.
Cool. So thanks a lot for doing this informal night hacking on stage, Jasper. 3, step on, 3. I'm looking for numbers, 2 or 3.
It's on the it's that one? Yeah, it's number 3.
Thanks. Okay, so if you guys want to see some more night hacking, all of the streams are available at nighthacking.com. You can watch them live. And I'm also, here are some of the folks you can see. I'm also uploading them all to parlays.com. So by the end of the week, all of the night hacking talks will be on Parlays.
Cool.
And also today, this afternoon, right after the keynote, where the Hacker Garden was downstairs in the pavilion, I'm going to be interviewing a bunch of luminaries right here from the conference. So Kirk Pepperdine, Bill Veneers, Antonio, who you guys saw earlier, talking about DevOps France, Dan Allen. I have a whole lineup of folks the entire day. So if you have any spare time between sessions or, talk not that interesting, drop down and you get to see a live recording of our night hacking.
Cool.
All right, so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Nandini.
Thank you, Stephen. That was pretty awesome. I still can't believe you're touring Europe on a motorbike. But okay, so I guess we're about ready to wrap it up. So you heard a lot of details about JDK 8, which is going to be released later this year. Next year, sorry, I meant next year. And you've seen a lot of the features that Joe outlined. And I'm not going to go into all of them, but I did want to make a mention of Project Nashorn, which is our implementation of JavaScript. It'll give you seamless integration of JavaScript running on the JVM, not in interpreted mode, but actually as bytecode, and integration with between Java and JavaScript as well. So stay tuned for Project Nashorn, date and time API. I don't want to go through the entire list. I'm sure you've seen several of these, and there'll be many talks on most of these topics. Then, of course, JavaFX. Do join the OpenJFX community, which is on OpenJDK. JDK 9 and beyond, we have a whole list of features, including Jigsaw, bringing modularity to the Java platform. Wish I'd had some of these features when I was, still coding. Another one I want to mention is Project Sumatra. We're doing this in conjunction with AMD, bringing Java for GPUs. We also have multi-tenancy coming, running multiple programs on a single VM, tricky engineering challenges in many of them. So I don't want to go into each of these, but this is our wish list. Please join the OpenJDK forums and add and let us know what it is you want to see in the platform. Call to action, do download Java, which I'm sure most of you have. I saw a lot of hands going up for the JDK 7. Join and create new Java user groups. We've seen the London Jugs very proactively participate. You have the Adopt the JSR program, several of these. Create new ones in other parts of Europe. Contribute to technical screencasts, of course, the night hacking tour from Stephen. And please do participate in Java Embedded World. This time we had an inaugural event at Java 1, called Java Embedded at Java 1, and we intend to take this both in other locations as well as continue to have it at Java 1. It's a big focus for us in the upcoming months and years, so do join the embedded community. I want to make special mention of the new additions we have to the JCP. We have Centurion. They're in the embedded space. They make wireless modules, and it's running what I mentioned earlier as Java Embedded 3.2. They've joined the JCP. We have Credit Suisse, Fujitsu, HP, and CloudBees, none of whom are over here. Oh, well, I guess somebody is here from CloudBees, but sorry. But I do want to say, special mention to the London Java community folks who have joined the JCP. So Ben, Martin, I'd like to bring you on board and give them a big hand. Because they work relentlessly, not just, as part of the community and doing things with DevOps, but also actively participating in the JCP, and not to mention their day job that they also have while they're at it. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it, everything you're doing for Java. And with that, of course, I'm going to leave you with our little statement of, don't take anything I say seriously.
Okay, thank you, Nandini.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.